Okay, lesson 8.6, writing linear equations. Before you've graphed linear equations, now you're going to write linear equations so you can describe real-world events. Make sure you have notebook paper with you and your video log so that you can fill the video log out and critique what needs fixed or where you have suggestions. And your notes, you need to include definitions, examples, and then questions to bring to class. Okay, writing an equation given the slope and y-intercept. You're going to write an equation of the line with a slope of -5 and a y-intercept of 12. So let's see. If we know the formula for the slope-intercept, we know that it is y equals mx plus b. We know that the slope is -5, so I'm being told it's -5, and the y-intercept is 12, so I know this is 12. What can I do? What do I know? I can rewrite this, right? I can rewrite it as y equals -5x plus 12. Whoops. And I have just wrote an equation. I knew two pieces of information. I knew the slope and I knew the y-intercept. And because I also know this formula, I was able to write it as an equation. And now I can find any value of y for any value of x. So make sure you copy this down. I know I have an eraser. I'll just leave it alone. We'll just go to the next slide. Okay, so we're going to be writing equations using a graph. So again, we need to know this formula, the slope intercept formula. This is one that's going to keep coming back to you, so hopefully you already have it memorized. We need to figure out what is the slope. We've got a couple ways of finding the slope. So I want you to stop, pause the video, and for credit, you're going to write down 2 ways you can find the slope and verify that you get the slope the same way. Okay, thank you. Make sure you turn that into class. You want to make sure I know this is from video 8.6 and that your name is on the paper so I can give you credit for watching the video for turning in the 2 ways you can find slope. So I'm going to do the difference in x and the difference in y, or the change of x, or that should be a triangle. Let me try to fix that a little bit. Okay, so I went ahead and wrote the change of y over the change of x. So I'm going to need to take these values and plug them in. It doesn't matter which one I pick, but whatever I pick, I have to stick with. I'm just going to go with the bottom one, so I have -2. Oh, that didn't work too well. Plus, I was not giving myself enough room to write. So let me find the backspace, and I'm just going to use an actual pen this time. Okay, so I'm going to go -2. Remember, x's go on the bottom, and it's a difference, so I'm going to be subtracting. And the -3 is my y, so it goes in the top. And again, I'm looking for difference, so change. So it's going to be a negative or a subtraction sign. Now I'm going to plug this in. This one is a 3 for the x, and this one is a 2 for the y. So when I do this, I end up getting -5 over -5. Where does that equal to be? That does in fact equal 1. So my slope equals 1. Now the other thing I need to do is, where does this line cross the y-axis? So I'm going to follow this line and say, well, it crosses right there. So that is 0, 1. So I can now write an equation pretty easily knowing this information. Let me extend my page a little bit. Okay. So now I can say y equals my slope of 1, x plus my y-intercept, which is, oh, look at that. I put 1 and it should have been -1. Okay, so that's -1 Or I could rewrite this so that it's simply y equals x, because I'm a mathematician and I, like a middle school student, don't want to write anything more. And again, because I am a mathematician and I don't want to write anything more than I have to, instead of saying a pause, adding a -1, I'm just going to say I'm subtracting 1. And this is in fact my equation. And I can verify. I can go up, over, and I keep touching it. So up 1 over 1, well, that's a slope of 1. And then I started at -1, or I should say I started, but my y-intercept is at -1. Therefore, it checks. Okay, whoops. Let's go ahead and go to the next. Make sure you get notes as you need to. So writing an equation of a line that is parallel. This is going to, remember, if we're doing with parallel lines, we have a couple things we need to deal with. So for this particular one, we're writing an equation of a line that is parallel to the line of y equals -2x plus 5 and pass through the point 0, 3. Well, what is required for an equation to be parallel to another equation? So if I want my two lines to be parallel, what do I have to have in these two equations? Please take a moment and write these down, and then replay the video to find out. Okay, the first thing I need to know is the slope has to be the same. So I need to have a -2. Slope is the same because I need it to change at the exact same rate. So it has to be the same. Slope is same. And what else do I need to know? That's right, the y-intercept has to be different. Otherwise, I just have the same line over the top of each other, and that's just kind of silly because they wouldn't be parallel. They're the same line. So I need to have these two things. I have my slope being the same, and my y-intercept is different. Make sure you're writing this down. I know you may have caught it the other day, but it's one of those things that you're going to need to make sure you know so that you have success in your future math classes. Okay. Now, the next thing is this, so what if the y-intercept for the line, so what is the y-intercept for the line that passes through 0, 3? So I need to start to rewrite this. I need to say, okay, y equals, that's kind of a big y, isn't it? Let me go back and make a regular size y. Okay, y equals. Well, I know that if I need to find the y-intercept, it's going to be a y equals. And I would plug 0 in for my x. So if I plug 0 in, you know what? I think I'm getting ahead a step. Some of you might be able to go ahead and go there, but let me back up a step. Y equals. Well, I want it to be parallel, so I have to have the same slope, correct? Okay. And now I need to have a different slope, and I'm not positive what that slope needs to be. Well, let's see the points they want me to use is 0, 3. What if I plug 0 in for x? So say that's a 0. I'm going to get what? 0. So I'm going to get y equals b. But they're telling me that y is going to actually be equal to 3. So if that's the case, this becomes a big old 0. Let me change colors so you can kind of see it easier. This becomes a 0. They told me y is 3. I now really get b equals 3. What is b also known as? The y-intercept. So I have y equals -2x plus 3. Now some of you might have been like, well, I can easily figure out if this is going to work because I'll just plug the 0 in and I need to get 3. And so you might have just plugged the 0 in for x, and when you did that you saw, well, y had to be 3, and you came up with this in a different manner. But there is a couple ways to approach this. I just want to make sure that you see this satisfies, because if I put 0 in, I do get y equals 3. Remember, this is how I'm going to find y-intercepts, is putting a 0 in for x. So this one kind of worked out nicely.